Joining us now, Curtis Ellis, Senior Advisor, America First Policies. That is the only sanctioned political action committee for the Trump reelect campaign. And that is also Curtis has been with the Trump administration and Department of Labor. He was with the transition team. He was on the Trump campaign in 2016, and he is now a senior advisor to America First Policies. And you can often see him on Fox Business News with Lou Dobbs and Stuart Varney. Also, you can read him, WND.com, The Hill. He's all over the place. But the main place you see him is on the John Fredericks Radio Network, because he knows when he comes on our show, he's on with Godzilla, and he knows that we're trucking the truth. And he's with us now. Curtis, great to have you, man.
It's great. It's great to be here. Yes, I'm on with Godzilla. I'm Mothra, so it's wonderful.
So, got to tell you guys a quick New Hampshire story. Curtis and Ellis, I come up here for New Hampshire the week before the primary, and we were here. It was Saturday. We got in like Friday or something. So it's Saturday. Curtis, were we in Manchester? Is that where we were?
Yes, we were.
So we're in
Manchester. Yes, we were. We were in Manchester when we saw the Bernie Sanders supporters. It was great.
So we're walking in downtown Manchester. We had just gotten there, right? We had checked into our our hotel was way off the beaten path somewhere, and so we get to town, and we get to Manchester. We park our car. We're trying to find a store because Curtis needed something. I needed something. Right? I forgot, so we're trying to find a department store or something. Open on a Saturday. We're walking downtown, and there's these homeless people in the park, and there's these, and they got these signs up. And they're for Bernie Sanders. And there's this big sign, and it says, "Homeless people for Bernie, we want free stuff."
It was great.
I'll never forget that.
Perfect. Explains it all.
That explains it all. We
John,
want free
we
stuff.
saw the future. We saw the future. That's what we will all be like if Bernie Sanders becomes president. We'll all have everything free, but we'll all be homeless, right? It's all going to be free. We'll all be equal. We'll be equally poor. We'll have free health care, which will consist of 2 aspirin, and call me in the morning, and that'll be the health care system for America. Free aspirin. You won't have to pay for your doctor. You won't have to pay for your health care. That's the good news. The bad news is your health care consists of 2 aspirin. You'll have a free house, free housing. It'll be a tent. Or a cardboard box. It'll be great.
Box.
Free education, and it'll be worth as much as you pay for it.
It's nothing.
Right.
But yeah,
because you won't be able to get a job afterwards. So what the hell do you need the education for?
Some of those cardboard boxes though that they were living in, some of them they had them custom made, right? They had taped together, and they had like little swinging windows on them and stuff. Vote for Bernie. We want free stuff. All right. I want to get to the president's delay in the China tariffs. I'm going to play a clip here for you. It's about a minute and a half. This is the president at his gaggle yesterday, kind of catching all of us by surprise, me included, Curtis Ellis. Here's the president yesterday. Kiera, we're going to get up cut one. Here's the president yesterday saying that he's going to have a delay in the China tariffs, which I didn't expect, and I'll get your take on it after this clip. Trump cut one.
And we had a very good talk yesterday with China, a very, very productive call. I think they want to do something. I think they'd like to do something dramatic. I was not sure whether or not they wanted to wait until a Democrat has a chance to get in. Hopefully that's not going to happen because the economy was going to hell in a handbasket very fast. But they really would like to make a deal. The call itself was very productive. I'm not sure if it was the tariffs or the call, but the call was very productive. Again, they've said this many times. They said they're going to buy farm products. So far, they've disappointed me with the truth. They haven't been truthful, or let's say they've certainly delayed the decision. But it's their intention to buy a lot of farm products. And we had a very good call with China. I mean, they would really like to do it. You know, they have a problem in Hong Kong. but they would like very much to do something.
The president yesterday, Curtis, putting off the 10% tariff on what remains of China goods after he said he's had enough. They're not seriously negotiating. Now he gives them another reprieve, which is really what they wanted. Curtis Ellis, what's your take?
That was a great soundbite, John. That was designed to drive all your listeners away or make their ears bleed.
One or the other, right?
The cicadas in the background were terrible. I mean, they really got to do something. They got to call the exterminator in there on the White House grounds, get rid of those bugs. But seriously, I understand that was the helicopter in the background. Look, let's keep our eye on the ball here. Number one, they've delayed tariffs on about half of the $300 billion. So half of the tariffs are going forward. $150 billion go into effect September 1st as planned. You have another half there. You've got $5 billion of this are for national security reasons. There's very national security sensitive products that there's no point in us putting a tariff on because it's going to interfere with our defense. Now, the remaining $140 billion or so is on things like laptops, computers, apparel, footwear. This is all part of the whole thing. Step back for a moment. This is part of the president's rope-a-dope strategy, where he's showing strength and flexibility. Tariffs, I announced tariffs one day, a couple weeks later, we take half of it back. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Everybody got all upset when he put the tariffs in place in the first place, going back a year or so. Oh, the sky's going to fall. And then when the sky didn't fall, everybody kind of adjusts to it. And then he says, okay, they're going to go from 10 to 25%. And then everybody said, oh, my God, the sky's going to fall. And then the sky didn't fall. And then he announces more tariffs, and they say the sky's going to fall. And now, so we keep seeing this ratcheting up of the tariffs, and people are starting to understand how this really works and the benefit of it. The goal here is to get the supply chains out of China. Get them back to the United States, ideally, but get them out of China. We should not be. First of all, it's bad business and bad investment to be dependent on one supplier, right? And China is the supplier of the world now, and the supplier of so many of American businesses, and that is just bad investment. I think you'd get an F at MBA school at your Master's of Business Administration if you handed in a business plan or a project where you said, I'm going to be totally dependent on one supplier. My entire business can be held hostage by this one supplier. They say you should diversify. So in exchange for giving these footwear and retail, it's basically the National Retail Federation that screamed bloody murder when he announced these tariffs a couple of months ago. They had their public comment period, and they all came out there, and they were screaming bloody murder. The retailers, we're dependent on China for everything. And basically he gave them a reprieve for this Christmas shopping season. And by the way, they put their orders in months ago. And all of those goods are already on boats. In many cases, they're on a ship headed this way, right? Or about to be loaded onto the container ship over there on the other side of the Pacific. So they have no negotiating room to get these importers. They don't have negotiating room to get the price cuts from China. They've already put their orders in for the Christmas shopping season. So what the administration is doing here is publicly they're giving them a reprieve for the Christmas shopping season on the orders they've already placed, and they probably already, agreed on a price back in June or something. And behind the scenes, I suspect, because Bob Lighthizer is one tough customer, our trade negotiator, they said, look, you're getting this one-time reprieve. Christmas coming early for you guys. We're going to give you a break on these tariffs, but you better. This is your chance to get your supply chains out of China. And that was the quid pro quo, I suspect.
No, look, I think
they should have done
sense.
this a long time ago, by the way. I mean, these idiots, they've listened to people like Neil Cavuto and some of the morons on CNBC who haven't had original thought and have never been connected to the real world, who say, tariffs bad, this can't last, they've got to get rid of the tariffs, we need to deal with China now. And they all thought, oh, yeah, this is going to blow over, and Gary Cohn is going to come back into the White House, and cooler, calmer, reasonable heads will prevail, and we'll go back to the way it was. And we'll just do business with the Chi-Coms again like nothing ever happened. And they should have figured out that, no, that is not going to happen, and now they have one last chance to get it right.
Look, basically what they thought is it's going to be Goldman Sachs to the rescue, just like they always are, and the propagandists on Wall Street, Fox Business News, CNBC, the Wall Street Journal, Cato Institute. I mean, the whole bunch of them, Curtis. They're all funded by the same globalist, cheap labor crowd that is looking for nothing else but to get short-term profits, get bonuses up, and drive down wages. And so the whole bunch of, I mean, I got something the other day from the Cato Institute blasting the president's China tariff policy. It's like I thought there was some kind of a libertarian think tank from the 70s or something. Like, why are they involved in this? It's because their donors come from Goldman Sachs. I mean, so they've taken over, Wall Street has taken over all of these think tanks, including the Heritage Foundation, and they all get on TV. And look, how long have they been telling us? How long have they been telling us with these tariffs? Number one, your 401k will get wiped out. It will crash. The stock market will collapse. How long have they been telling us you will be paying exorbitant taxes on every goods? You'll be paying another $5 for a six-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon beer. How long have they been saying inflation is going to go through the roof? None of this has happened. You know why? Because they don't even understand what the president is trying to do. And if they do, they're lying about it.
And they don't understand the real world. They read a textbook. They went to college 20 years ago. They read their Econ 101 textbook, which said, tariffs bad, always bad, bad. And yesterday, in addition to the announcement that he's delaying the tariffs on the goods, the other news that came out yesterday morning was the Consumer Price Index. Consumer Price Index comes out every month. And what does it show? No inflation. No inflation. That's what it's been showing all along. But did that stop Neil Cavuto and some of these other no-think morons getting on TV and saying, consumers are paying the price for the tariffs? Excuse me, there is no evidence of that whatsoever. The data is there. I thought investors were driven by data, information, real information, not fantasy land and something that you read in a book somewhere that you now, look, I'm not going to give my money to you to invest if that's the way you are navigating the world. I want it to be based on reality, and the reality shows consumers are not paying for tariffs. The Chinese are, and I can't emphasize this too much, that these people are out to lunch. They had a great interview. Maria Bartiromo had Jerry Storch, former CEO of Toys R Us, on, and he said this whole fear about tariff inflation is way overblown. There will be no pain for consumers. Any pain will be like a pinch. We're talking about $300 billion worth of consumer goods in a $14 trillion consumer economy. Do the math. 10% maximum, and it's not even on retail prices. The 10% tariff is not imposed on the retail price, not even on the wholesale price. It's like way back there in China. The first sale from a Chinese factory before it gets put on a truck being sent to the port, that's where the 10% gets levied. A tiny percentage on a tiny percentage of the goods changing hands in this economy is going to see, that's what the tariff amounts to. And then he said, what are we really at the point where as a country we can't afford a little pain in pursuit of a longer-term geopolitical goal? And that's the point that's getting lost here. We are talking about the future of our country, the continued existence of our country? Or are we going to be dependent, not just dependent, but subjugated to the Chinese Communist Party? Because that is their goal, and they are using economic means to achieve it. First, steal our industries, make us dependent on the goods from China, and then on the producers in China, and then they start calling the tune as to what we pay, what we get paid, what we're allowed to see, what we're allowed to read, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And is that the future you want? Mm-hmm. No, you don't? Well, it's lucky we're only trading tariffs in this war and not trading guided missiles, mm-hmm. as we have in previous wars to defend our country.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the reason why prices have not gone up and there has not been soybean Armageddon for the economy, Curtis, is because here's what the Chi-Coms do. They subsidize the cost of production. I mean, this is what Neil Cavuto never says. It's like,
right.
Why are the goods cheaper when they come here than when we make them? Well, they're cheaper for two reasons. Number one, they pay their people slave labor fees. Number two, they subsidize the government, taxpayers, or however they get their money, subsidizes the cost of production. So you put a 10% tariff on them, they have two choices. Raise prices, which then stimulates U.S. businesses to compete for those products and get in the business, which is going to drive prices down, or subsidize the other 10% so they can still corner the market. So they simply subsidize it. That's why there's no increase in the prices. That's why the Wall Street Journal, Neil Cavuto, and the whole free trade cabal is singing a song that is the third biggest lie in America. Tariffs are a tax on consumers because consumers pay for the tariffs. We've seen no evidence of that. This is the big lie, and the reason they're doing it is they want to ensure the cheap supply chain coming from China for their corporate Goldman Sachs donor sponsors that support the whole bunch of them. That's the real reason. I don't think Cavuto's dumb. He's just playing this game because
That's right.
The longer they say it, the longer they lie to it, the longer they propagate it, then people start saying, oh, these trade war is going to cost me money and my six-pack of beer goes up. I'm paying less money now for a six-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon today in Virginia than I paid for 2 years ago. And that's the beer, unfortunately, that I drink.
And the homeless
Curtis?
for Bernie are paying nothing for it because everything's free.
I know, even the Pabst or the Bud Light.
That's right. I have
Curtis?
a piece up on American Greatness, amgreatness.com, American Greatness website, Democrats media collude with China to influence the 2020 election, talking about everything we've been talking about here, John. So
we have the best conversations because you and I are about the two people in America, along with the President Lighthizer and Peter Navarro, that really get this. And that's why I'm glad you brought up Neil Cavuto, because, look, I'm not going to read into someone's narrative. I don't know why he keeps doing it. Either he's misinformed or he's just bought into the whole Goldman Sachs thing. But I can tell you, Curtis, this is not going to be the end of this, because they can't keep lying to the American people when there is no inflation. It is zero.
And the other part of it is the American people, most of them would be willing, even if they had to pay a little more, they would be willing to do it. You look at the factory workers out there, the former factory workers, the auto workers and whatnot out there in the Midwest who saw their jobs go to China. They're saying it's payback time, folks. Let's get tough with China. This should have been done 20 years ago. And if we have to sacrifice a little to get our way of life back, I'm willing to do it. They send their kids off to war. These are the people whose kids enlist in the Army to defend this country. They're willing to pay a nickel more for a six-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon. That's a small price to pay for the price of freedom. That's their attitude. And all these Democrats who are out there carping about the Trump trade war, and you get the losers on TV carping about, tax on families, they don't get it. They are totally out of touch.
Well, that's, there's the big lie and then there's reality. Curtis Ellis, we're going to get you back on Friday because the day after the rally, I want to do a tribute to our good friend Jack Davis, who ran for Congress in upstate New York. You were part of his campaign. Both of us know him, and there's a great story to tell. And as we talk about this tariffs in China, the one person who was way ahead of everybody, including the president, was Jack Davis. We're going to do a tribute to him on Friday, so we'll reach back out to you. Make yourself available there. We're going to get Den Black involved, and we're going to have kind of a Jack Davis hour if you can accommodate us with that. He just retired, by the way. Great American. Curtis Ellis, American First Policies. Thanks for being with us.
Hey, thank you, John.